Hi, I'm Brandon Vashuran and I'm a second year sports management student.
My name is Jenny. I graduated in June 2017 and I now work as a social worker.
I decided to go to university because my cousins had previously gone to university and it was something that I'd always considered, and after a lot of talking to my former foster family, they always said that university would lead to the best career.
What led me to go to university was ultimately I wanted to be a social worker, and in order to be a social worker you have to do a degree to become registered.
My experiences at university have been positive at the moment. I've been able to experience things that I never thought I'd be able to experience beforehand. Like, I've done a lot more sports, and being a sports student, that's something I've always wanted to do. And as I said, I'm going to Kenya in the summer to do sports coaching, which is something that I never considered doing beforehand. And then after this, I'll be involved in football tournaments and creating all these sporting opportunities for a wide range of people, which is something that before university I wouldn't have considered doing. My
experiences at uni were mixed. I found it really challenging, the academic side of aspect, because I didn't do secondary school education, I didn't do A-levels, so my route into education was not necessarily the traditional route. However, it was a really positive experience because I actually achieved a degree at the end of it.
Knowing that I'm different, like the societal norm has always been everyone has a normal family and parents and such, and when I first meet people they always ask like what are your parents like, and it's always been difficult to say yeah they're cool, but knowing that I don't really have that. And then as I get to know them, they understand more about my past, so they really grasp how I'm different to them and how I don't let that overcome me. And one of the biggest challenges is always being faced by problems because of my past, whether that's talking about it to former social workers or my personal advisor. My past would always somehow catch me up, so it's always something that I've had to keep an eye on. Doesn't matter how long it's been since I was put into foster care. It was always something we spoke about as a foster family, and we had these annual reviews where we spoke with the council, and they said that I should always consider going to university, as having that degree, having that qualification and those experiences, not just in terms of education-wise, like I said, going to Kenya and stuff, is something that's very different that you won't get if you were to go straight into work. And those were the things I was told, and those were the things that I was told to think about before I started to actually consider what I wanted to do in my future.
In my teenage years, I lived in residential, and I kept in contact with two of the residential workers. When I doubted it and felt that I wasn't perhaps bright enough or wasn't good enough to go to university, they would be really positive and say, you know, you've got the potential and you can do it if you put your mind to it. And that kind of really spurred me along and made me believe in myself.
When considering going to university, the main people who supported me and asked and discussed it with me were my foster family and the Croydon Council and social workers and personal advisors, as they always asked what I wanted to do, and I wasn't too sure, and they told me about the experiences that I'd be able to have at university and how big it would be for a care leaver to go to higher education. And having these experiences that I'm telling you now to discuss with a lot more people, and not just education-wise, like I said, going to Kenya, these are all once-in-a-lifetime opportunities I will only be able to experience at university. So those were the main reasons I was told to consider it, and those were the main reasons why I'm here now.
It was really helpful to have those people in my life, because I think it's really important to have positive role models, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your parents or even your old foster carers or residential workers. It's just somebody who can push you to reach your full potential.
being independent living was one of the main things, but one of the other big problems that I faced being a care leaver and things I needed advice on was finances. As being independent living, we didn't have that support from parents financially moving to a new location. So financial advice was a big thing that we needed to discuss in great depth. So I spoke to quite a lot of people at my old college back home who gave me great financial advice and helped me through all the processes of student finance and getting the right bursaries or whatever I was eligible for at that moment. So financial advice from college was definitely something that was required and something that I needed great advice on.
I picked the university that I went to primarily because the support it offered for care leavers and that additional financial support for your accommodation makes a massive difference to your university life, and not having to worry about the financial implications when, you know, compared to other students, they may have their parents and family supporting them, whereas as a care leaver you don't necessarily have that.
Different universities offer different bursaries, and I chose the one that was best suited to me in terms of eligibility and as well as the amount that they were offering. And the university I chose also offered a scholarship as well. I'm proud to be a care leaver because it's something that held me back, but it's something I've used to push me forward. So as some people might not want to disclose that information, I'm very happy to, as like I said, I'm very proud of where I've come from and where I've gained these opportunities to. And I guess when it comes to UCAS and filling out all these forms, it makes it a lot easier to disclose that, to share that information, because it makes the forms a lot easier to fill out, and also it means that the forms go from A to B a lot quicker. As I said, you should not be afraid to outline that you're a care leaver, because it shows that, especially applying to higher education, it shows that you're able to overcome those barriers. Especially speaking from personal experience, having a very difficult past, like losing family members and going through very difficult circumstances, and having my two brothers. We've always been considered people who will find it very difficult in the future, but when we've got into this position, in this position now, talking to you, not many people would have expected that from a care leaver.
Not many care leavers go on to higher education, and I didn't go to secondary school and perhaps take the traditional route, so I'm really proud that I got a degree, and let alone being a care leaver and perhaps experiencing things that children shouldn't experience in your adolescent years. I took the box on the UCAS application form to say that I was a care leaver, because I felt it was really important that we see how many care leavers go to university. And it's really important that you do tick the box, because it ensures that the university that you go to knows that you're a care leaver, and that means they can offer you the right support and guidance, and ultimately financial support as well.
People should be able to use these disadvantages that they have faced and give them as opportunities to showcase their strength, which many care leavers have.
My bit of advice for any children that are in care or care leavers that are considering university and you're not quite sure if you're ready for it, or perhaps you're just not sure. I understand there's a lot of pressures on 18, 19-year-olds that they have to go to university straight after A-levels, but it's okay not to go to university straight away. I didn't go to university till I was 21, and I think that was the best option because I knew that I was ready and that's what I wanted to do. But as a care leaver, you're entitled to that support in higher education up until you're 25. So there is absolutely no rush to go into higher education at 18 or 19 if you're not ready for it.
Well, I think I didn't really think about it until I was about 19 because, like I said, I'd gotten in with the wrong crowd, I think, at one point. The drinking didn't help and I just really didn't bother. I had no motivation, and then obviously I had my little one and thought, oh, I've really got to sort my life out. She really completely changed my life, and I think then I was like, God, I have to get my stuff together. And I thought there was no way that I was going to provide the kind of life I had for my daughter, and I wanted to give her a good one. I remember I went off on a bit of a slippery slope in my teenage years. I failed a year, I went to college, didn't do well at school, didn't have social care or public services. I didn't really have a lot of focus on what I wanted to do as such. And then I think I started the Access to Higher Education, and I was still toying with the idea. I was like, do I want to do social work, or do I want to be a mental health nurse? And then I just thought, I think I have some reservations about going into the social work that may be from my personal, background. But it's the best thing I ever did, so I'm really glad I did it.
The biggest challenge, I think, was moving into university. I'd been away from home before, but that wasn't an issue, since being in foster care had already been the big jump. I think it was the fact that there was a lot more responsibility. It's probably the same with most guys and girls when they move over. They have to do a lot more. They have to do things like washing and cleaning. There's a lot more responsibility. They have to take care of their money now and things like that. I think it's the fact that even though there's enough people to support you, you're more reliant upon yourself now. But I just think to myself, the other thing that's got me better off now isn't just rushing through a lot of stuff, but instead sitting back and actually thinking about everything in your life. Like, where have I come from? How have I overcome everything that's been happening in my life? Where do I want to go? And then what can I do to get there?
Not really. I tend to feel like a lot of people judge you a lot differently if they know everything in the past, so I don't really tell people that much.
Well, it's a very personal thing, because if you tell some people, they're like, what happened? And then they expect you to give your life story of all the terrible things you've endured before you went into care, or even when you're in care sometimes. And you just don't want to give that information out to people, because sometimes they're really bad memories sometimes, and you just don't want to revisit them. Whereas I think it depends on who you're telling, really, because I'm generally quite happy for other people to know I'm a care leaver, but I don't know. I only tell people when it's relevant, I guess,